First of all, I wanted to tell you a little bit about why do I talk about collaboration and how did that come about. And in 1995, I took a new job with TSB, the bank. And I moved my family. I had a young daughter who was at the time just a month old. And my wife and I moved to South Wales near Newport to take up a job with them to run a project to launch some new products. And about 3 weeks after I'd taken the job, I woke up on the morning to listen to the BBC on the radio, as we always do. And the announcement of the Lloyds and TSB merger was on the radio news. And kind of you have that sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach that the world has changed a little bit from that which you expected. And I realized immediately that the project I'd been hired to run probably would be cancelled in that environment. And indeed, that's what happened very quickly after the news broke. I was told not to do any more work on that project and didn't really know what that meant. And so I hadn't at that point got any real plans for how to take my future forward and where the career would go. And I realized that I needed to find people and build relationships from the people in the TSB who I didn't know at all really at that point, 3 weeks into a new job, who could help define a new role for me and one that would create a path that both I wanted to go down, that was something that met my needs, but also was valuable to the organization. So they didn't see me as the last in and the first to go. And I learned a lot of the tools of collaboration and have built on those in the years since. So that's why Toby asked me to come and talk on that subject. And what I learned was there are 5 stages in terms of meeting a whole raft of faces that you don't know and don't understand, but this kind of 5 phases to building up to a collaborative relationship. And I wanted just to talk through quickly what those 5 are. So first of all, is having the understanding that you need to do it. It becomes a conscious thought that you want to move into collaboration. For me, that moment was when I heard about the merger and the news of the merger from Lloyds and TSB. I became really conscious of the need to have some more collaborative relationships. And of course, the next thing that happened was I went into the office and I had lots of conversation. Talking to people. And at the time I was a smoker. I don't recommend that as a way of building up collaboration, by the way, but one of the things with being a smoker was that we all went outside to smoke, and the MD was a smoker too. So I got to have conversations with him that I probably wouldn't have been able to have any other way. And I started to learn about how I could cooperate, and that's the 3rd stage, to cooperate with other people in the organization in a way that helped them achieve their goals. And by doing that, I started to build trust, build started to like people who liked me back. We started to understand how we worked, what our skills were, where the competencies were, how they fitted together, and so on. And then gradually it became really apparent where I could add value. And I joined, as I say, in order to build a new product for the business. But in the merger, the challenge was a slightly different one. The challenge was to take the existing TSB products to this widened market that Lloyds and TSB now had, what was called the co-branding, Lloyds TSB, and getting those products to all of the branches of both the old Lloyds and the old TSB. And so I proposed to the MD that I took part of the project to bring the first co-branded product for the whole group, not just the insurance division where I worked, to all of the branches of Lloyds and TSB. It was a bold move. I was asking him to trust somebody who'd just joined the business that he didn't really know that well. I was asking him to commit a fair amount of money and certainly make some big changes in the organisation. But he, fortunately for me, saw that I was both passionate about doing it and ready, willing and able to put my shoulder to the wheel, as it were. And so he put me in charge of that project, and we ran for a couple of years, delivered the result, created a community of people, the project team, that really understood each other and really worked well. And one of the things that I did in that time wasn't to rush into doing the work. It was very much about creating the knowledge in the team of who was good at which bits. So we understood everybody's strengths, we understood their weaknesses, we understood how they worked under stress, so we could start to see when people were being stressed by the work they were doing and help them to come through that, understand where the tensions were and so on. So that created this kind of family environment, and I really enjoy that. That's where this 5-step kind of model came from. And when I left Lloyds TSB in 2001, I left to join a small consultancy firm helping with change management and collaboration. And I got involved with an insurance industry project that involved the whole of the insurance industry to share data about motor vehicle claims so that we could help eliminate fraud. And so I kind of, the first thing that happened is in 2003, we got invited by the motor insurers to come and help them with that project. That was when they became conscious of the need to share data more effectively to help eliminate fraudulent claims. And we started also talking to the government, who were interested in supporting and helping that and also driving it a little bit. They brought in some new regulations around how written off cars are put back on the road if they are. So we had some quite long and detailed conversations with the government in 2003. And again, my role was really about helping the organisations involved to understand the challenge, what we were actually trying to achieve, but also where the strengths and weaknesses, the capabilities, the competencies lie. And then in 2004, we hired the suppliers to build the means of sharing the data, and the industry and the suppliers and the government were all doing little bits of projects, but not really collaborating at that point, still working in isolation on the same projects, but not together yet. And so that was 2004. And on the 1st of January 2005, we delivered the means of them sharing the data. Always good, I think, to pick a date like New Year's Day to implement a big project with 70 different companies involved, but that for some reason was the madness we chose. But it gave a very clear line in the sand in terms of date of what was before and after implementation. And so the industry went on, shared data, and has been doing so since, significantly cutting the costs and the level of fraud in the industry, which is great. So I really want to talk about the impact of getting really good collaboration as well. Why is it important? Why does it matter? And the first key thing is that the impact is on what we call the cost of coordination. When everybody knows what the goal of the project is, when everybody knows who is good at which piece, who's the good project manager, who's got a really good eye for checking documents to make sure that they say what they mean and they say it in a concise and easy way, who's good at building relationships with other people, who's good at managing crises, those kinds of things, then you don't need to have a large oversight of managers and layers of management to make sure that things are being done right, because the team will do it right in the first place. And that, of course, gives us lower risk and much higher gains, sweep away all of those costs, and we're applying people's skills in the right place. And I don't know about you, but I know when I'm doing what I do really well, when I'm being asked to do things that I know I can deliver very high quality work, I tend to be much more enthusiastic about it, and I tend to do it both faster and better than other people would. And because it's exactly in the sweet spot. And that's what I believe collaboration is partly about doing, is helping people to get there. So how do we create that environment, the way that we get collaboration to really work? And the first thing is that it needs space. It needs the opportunity for people to understand and see how they can change a little bit to get a big benefit from working collaboratively. And by space, I mean everything about the environment, the working environment, the way that you can see outside light, for example, will change the way that people think. If you're in a closed room with electric lighting, it's quite oppressive. If you've got lots of visibility of the outside world, then it can open your mind a little bit. And I used to take the team literally out of the office. We'd walk around nearby parks and have discussions there rather than sitting in an office in a meeting room. And we found quite often that for brainstorming, that was really powerful, that giving people that space to walk around and think and move in and out of the conversation a way you can't do in a meeting room was really important. The second environmental thing is about having really strong common goals that everybody agrees with, that everybody's bought into, that we know what we're trying to do, why that's important, and that the team, the people on the team, are really keen to make that happen. And sometimes, there are people in a team that for whom the goal isn't that important, and it may be necessary to realign the team a bit, either to help them see why it makes a difference to them, or perhaps even that a different project would be the right project for them. And last of all is that it takes a bit of time, and it's worth giving it the time. Any project I start with new clients, with new groups of people, we very rarely start working on the project immediately. What we do is we start working on understanding who the team are and those relationships and skills and capabilities and knowledge and so on, and allowing the time to do that, because when you then move on to the project, everything can move much faster. And so by slowing down at the beginning, you actually end up taking less time for the whole project. And that's really about making sure that we start together too, really that everybody starts in the same place with the same goals, understanding the same things. And that's really where I then move into thinking about our job in terms of leading those teams, is about this thing I call collaborative leadership. And it's slightly different, I think, from other forms of leadership that are about maybe building a business, selling a business, the different kinds of leadership. But collaborative leadership is about these 5 things. First of all, listening, really listening for where there is alignment and where there's dissonance, where there are things that jar, where people are questioning why things are done that way, questioning what is being done. And really, rather than, quite often those are just passed over of, oh, well, they haven't understood yet, but they will later. But no, I think you need to address those dissonances early. And you also need to highlight the alignments when you hear them early. The second thing, perhaps even more important, is empowering people. But it's got to be genuine empowerment. It's got to be letting them use their skills, do their thing the right way every time and at every opportunity. And people will make mistakes. And I often hear that businesses talking about, well, we embrace mistakes, it's how we learn. And yet when you see a mistake happening in the business, it becomes accusatory. Why did that happen? Who's responsible? What did we do wrong? As opposed to, what is the learning from that? What are the things that we could change to make that not happen again? And the aviation industry, if a plane crashes, we know they spend a lot of money and a lot of time understanding why that plane crash happened, because they want 0-second failure. It's not to generally speaking, to point fingers at what went wrong. It's to make sure it doesn't happen again. And that means you have to share knowledge, really share knowledge, not be afraid of sharing anything that's relevant, being responsible for sharing news and bits of snippets that you hear from around the environment, the other people that you engage with that are relevant to the team, and sharing that widely. So a lot of what I talk about collaborative leadership is communication and being really good at communication. Sorry, I've gone the wrong way. And then the fourth thing is about identifying skills, really understanding who is good at this particular skill, who is good at that particular skill, rather than whose job is it. So one of the things in the project teams that I've run, the bigger project teams, is we generally don't use job descriptions. We talk about roles and the profile of the roles. We talk about skills and who has the right skills, the attitude, the approach, the behaviors, rather than what is on the job description. That's your job, you get on with it, even if you're not skilled at it, at that particular part of it. And that way the work flows around more easily. It gets to the people who can really do it. And it shows you also where you need to do training and help develop and grow people so they get the new skills that are either missing or in short supply. And finally, and I think probably most importantly, is this: creating really memorable, really positive experiences for everybody involved, celebrating the successes and not just paying lip service to celebration, but really understanding when something remarkable has happened because of a collective achievement and making that stand out for everybody involved in the team.